Hi, my name is Adam Dwoskin, and this is my renewable energy plan. Now, the reason I'm doing this plan is I'd like to find a little bit more of an inexpensive way to go about doing this. So, the first thing you're going to notice between my plan and the Minnesota plan is the energy types. They're still going to be using nuclear, while I'd like to not be having nuclear. Now, when these will be introduced, the only real difference between these two is that my battery storage will be 5 years earlier. Percentages for each. My wind is going to be 30%, my solar will be 40, and my battery storage for 10. Minnesota really didn't specify on what their percentages are going to be. Now, when the old technology will stop being used, my coal is going to be 2025, while theirs is 2035. I'd like to have mine gone by 2025 just because I think it does produce the most pollution and carbon dioxide, and I think getting rid of it the fastest would be the best option. Now, natural gas, mine is going to be gone by 2025, while theirs is gone by 2050. Nuclear is 2030, and their nuclear is 2034. Now you can finally see the difference between the cost of my plan versus their plan. As you can tell, it is quite inexpensive, and the reason for this is that people will be making their money back on it, and so will the grid. Now, solar will be 40% of the new renewable energy plan. People will be able to attach it to their houses, yards, and properties. I think that's going to be a major difference between my plan and the Minnesota plan, and why mine is a lot more inexpensive. Now, a solar panel does range between $2 to $3. You might think that it is quite inexpensive, but altogether it's going to be around $15,000 for each home. This energy type will be better than the others because you'll be able to save more money on electricity and be able to profit off it as well. With this solar plan, you'll be able to make your money back in 2 to 4 years and even earlier if you invest on a power storage system as well and sell electricity back to the grid. Now, here's some pros and cons for solar energy. Some things that I like on this is that with the battery storage combined, the power you will have will be enough to power your own house, so you don't have to worry on relying on outsourced energy. Some of the cons, though, is that finding local installation for especially Minnesota could be difficult, but obviously with this technology coming out, I think there will be more of it in the future. It's also more expensive than fossil fuels. Now, some technological improvements I'd like to see for solar is I'd like to find a way to create windows or solar panel windows, some way that'll be like a more minimalized way of collecting electricity. It probably won't be able to collect as much energy, but it'll still take up a lot less space. Now for wind. Wind will be 30% of my plan for renewable energy. People like the same with solar energy. You'll be able to have that on your homes and properties. I'd like to see it more on ranches and farms where people have more space, but obviously as technology improves, I think they'll be a lot smaller, being able to fit them more closer to homes. So here's some pros and cons. So some pros for it is they are cost efficient and the overall cost for them is decreasing, so they are going to be becoming cheaper. So some cons that they have is that it does pose a threat to wildlife. They are noisy and maintenance is quite expensive on them. I think it is $48,000. So some improvements for me is I'd like to find them a way to be a lot less destructive to the environment. They do end up killing birds, and if they're torn apart, they can fall on things in people's houses. So, and I like to make them a little quieter, so we'd be able to put them closer to people's residential areas. So for battery storage, battery storage will be added to every home with solar panels. It allows for energy to be stored straight to the grid, can power a home for 12 hours. The installation is actually extremely easy on them, and Tesla does have their own, and it is called the Powerwall. So some pros and cons. A power grid, which is more resistant to disruptions, it is going to minimize your electricity bill, and it can charge a house for 12 hours. Some real issues with them is they can get very hot, which may cause possible damage to the battery. And those lithium batteries are very bad for the environment. Some improvements I'd like to see for them is I'd like to see a way to be able to recycle or refurbish the batteries instead of just throwing them away. I would also like for the batteries to have some sort of cooling system so they wouldn't overheat and cause damage to the battery itself. So here are my cost lists, and as you can see, they are pretty inexpensive. Solar energy is only going to be around $6 billion, and it's just going to be a cost for mostly like the creation and installation of the solar panels on people's homes. Same with wind energy, except for just farms and acreage cost. And then battery storage will be $2 billion just because of the production and installation. So the total cost of mine will be $13.5 billion. Now for my closing argument. My plan is worthy because of how inexpensive it is. The reason it is so inexpensive is because most of the energy will be attached to the average Minnesotan owner's home. The plan will pay for itself after a while. With the solar panels, Minnesotans will be able to create and store their own energy. The use of wind turbines will be more for city usage and business power. And if a business or some sort of apartment building wants to use solar energy, they are allowed to attach to their roofs. And I think that is a great idea. So that is my plan for renewable energy.